Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes. Let's talk about Gen AI. And I'll tell you, Mark, in the last couple of conferences that I went to has really kind of shifted my thought process. You know, I've been kind of thinking about it as I watch this space. And now my head is more towards it's here. In fact, I was reading an article that talked about the CEO who was lamenting the fact that he didn't take the internet seriously and he missed an opportunity. He's not going to do the same thing with AI. To what extent, Mark, is the game really changed, or are we in another like RPA moment? I remember RPA was a rage and everybody's buying RPA stuff, and then it kind of flashed in the pan, and it's still there to some extent, but it's not the transformative thing that everyone thought it was going to be. Now we have AI. Is this really going to be different? Is this going to really change the game?
AI broadly, and specifically Gen AI and now Agentic AI, I think it can be and will be transformative for the insurance industry in many ways. At the same token, I just wrote a blog. It's not published yet, but I just wrote a blog titled "The Future of Insurance is Not About AI." Right? Again, back to the people theme, back to the human expertise. Right? So I think, is it going to enable us to elevate the roles of industry professionals? Yes. Is it going to enable us to get new insights, to go to next level of automation? All of the above, right? And any part of the value chain you look at, any part of the ecosystem you look at, I think there's tremendous use cases, right, for using all types of AI, right? Whether it's Gen AI, whether it's machine learning or natural language processing, or whatever it is. But there's a learning curve, and it gets back to how do you use those technologies, right? Because it's not as simple as, well, a vendor has this great tool, so we're gonna plug it in, right? You have to find the best case in your organization. The main thing I see most insurance organizations working on now is how do we govern the use of AI and Gen AI? Right? How do we understand the best use cases, and how do we make sure it's being used fairly? And, how do we work with the regulators, and how do we ensure that we've got, the privacy issues handled, all those kinds of things, right? And that's complicated, right, to do that. So I think we're going through this period where there's, lots of excitement, lots of experimentation, lots of planning. And I do think there's great use cases already, of course, in the field, but it's going to evolve over time. I just don't think that we're going to wake up like 2 years from now and say, "Oh my gosh, this is a different industry," because of AI.
Good points there. You talk about that human element and learning the term now. Human in the loop now is the term that we talk about now, right? When we talk about that human element of AI and Gen AI. If I'm the innovation officer, how would you counsel me, Mark, as I think about the human in the loop construct from two different perspectives? One is how I architect my solutions to contemplate human in the loop, and as well as how do I think about preparing my workforce to participate in human in the loop?
When we think about the research that we do, I actually have a diagram that we use that. We could do all kinds of research. Maybe it's in underwriting. Maybe it's research on, retail agency strategies or what MGAs are doing, the business models of MGAs, whatever it is. We have these two anchors, right? One anchor is AI and the other anchor is talent, right? Because everything kind of gets, mixed up in there, right? They influence everything. So we've done a lot of thinking about the talent, the workforce side of things, because I think this is all about how roles are evolving and how new roles emerge in the industry. So on the one hand, there are some challenges because as we automate more, as we use AI more, especially for entry-level kinds of activities, then what's the career path for somebody coming into the industry, right? You can't bring somebody into an insurance agency and say, you're going to be an account manager on a middle market construction account, right? You just have to build up expertise in those areas. And yes, they can be augmented by AI tools to help them learn fast. But that is one challenge, right? But I think there's more opportunity than challenge, right? Because I think ultimately it's going to move the humans into where judgment and empathy and experience are needed.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.